as I said before, NFP stands for Natural Family Planning. And really with me, what it comes down to is the P, the planning. Is that when you use it, you are making it about you. You are not open to life either way, whether you are using it to prevent a pregnancy or at least to attempt to forestall one, or whether you are deliberately using it to try to cause a pregnancy. You are making it about you. And I'm not the only one that says this. I have proof. And here's my proof of why NFP is not even biblical. St. Paul, 1 Corinthians, chapter 7. Now concerning the matters about which he wrote, I'm starting at verse 1. It is well for a man not to touch a woman, but because of the temptation to immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. This is where we get the tradition of marriage being one of those safeguards against fornication. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not rule over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not rule over his own body, but the wife does. Do not refuse one another, except perhaps by agreement for a season, that you may devote yourselves to prayer. But then come together again, lest Satan tempt you through lack of self-control. I say this by way of concession, not of command. I wish that all were as I myself am. But each has his own special gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. So at the very end there, you kind of see St. Paul just being an ass that he was.
So the NFP you can engage in, if I'm taking that literally, is, go on a silent retreat for like a weekend and then come back.
So this is how the real way to do NFP is, because anyone that's been through Catholic marriage prep knows NFP, but here's just a little bit of a rundown for what it is. My wife is now chomping at the bit to get her 2 cents in. Here's a little bit of a rundown. Basically, the wife needs to keep track of various biological factors, one of which being temperature, to determine whether or not she has a high or a low chance of being fertile that day. Because everybody understands that a woman's system, a woman's biology, runs on a cycle of about 28 days. It is 28, right? It varies. It's 28 to 32, about on average. 28 to 30 on average. So within that, there are periods of complete infertility, low fertility, and high fertility. And the method of NFP is something for a woman to use to keep track of what time in that range she is in. Here's why I don't like it. St. Paul just said, you all heard him, husband and wife should not refuse each other except maybe for a season by agreement, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. When he says you should not refuse each other except by a season, when he says by a season, he means a long time. A season is at least an entire month. And in those days, a season meant a quarter of the year. So what he's talking about there is practicing abstinence. If a man and a wife have come to an agreement for a period of time to abstain from one another, that they may devote themselves to prayer, that they may take the pain of not fulfilling that desire to devoting themselves to prayer and making it good and using it for some good other than, well, we just don't really think we're ready for a kid right now. That's what St. Paul is talking about. The only reason a husband and wife should be refusing each other or abstaining is to devote themselves to prayer and make themselves better, make themselves more virtuous. And then at the end of it, they should come together again. St. Paul doesn't talk at all about cycles and biology and keeping track of temperature. Not once is that ever mentioned. And this is another time where I have to hand it to the Protestants, because I first learned this from a Protestant, that's what Corinthians chapter 7 was. 1 Corinthians chapter 7.
Fair enough.
Something else, as an aside, that we have to give to our Protestant brothers. Most Protestant theologians are better Pauline scholars than a lot of Catholics are. And that is shameful, and that needs to end. Because if I was to read that... Also, let me just say this. Another reason that I don't like NFP. So the first reason is that you are making it about you. It's the P I don't like. It's the planning that I don't like. Because if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Plans ain't worth shit when it comes to eternity. Your plans are nothing. Your will is nothing. So the minute you try to put your will before God's, whether you're trying to prevent a pregnancy or cause one, you are sinning. You are making a grave error. Because at this point, you think that you get to decide when you have a child, not God. I have been married for 4 years. I have an amazing and wonderful and beautiful wife, and I don't just say that because she's sitting right over there and looking at me. I genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. There is no woman on this planet that is a better suited wife than the one that I married. I will love her with abandon, and she will love me with abandon. And if and when children come from that, we will praise and glorify God to the greatest extent of our voices, because he has seen fit to grant us another child. So when you practice NFP, you reduce everything. Both the relationship you have with your spouse, the love that God has for you, the love that you have for each other, and the love that you have for your children. You reduce all of that because you make it about you.
You know, there's a lot of easy comebacks to what we're saying here that people could propose, such as, well, how do we afford more kids? You know, can we deal with it emotionally, spiritually? And your two would answer there, who cares? Coupled with trust in God, he'll take care of you, is all the answer that really needs. And to construct your life in the ideal manner in which we are proposing, you need that trust.
The Protestants have
everything we're proposing here, from all levels, God, family, community, country, is fundamentally a relationship. And all relationships cannot survive without trust. You know, primarily the trust in him who made you and who loves you and cares for you, he who is your father. So if he made you this way and designed you this way to do what we're talking about, just shut up and do it, and try and go as close to him as possible, and he will sort out the rest.
This is why my problem with NFP is not with the N or the F. It is with the P. It is with the planning. Because the minute you add planning into the mix,
mm-hmm.
You then make it all about your will. And I refuse to listen to anyone who tries to tell me when it is prudent to avoid pregnancy. It is, because it isn't, ever.
It's prudent if you have a grave reason. Not thinking that you're going to be able to afford it most of the time for most people is not that grave reason. For reasons that we can further enunciate later.
And I don't necessarily blame you for thinking you can't afford one because of what the world has told you. Like, the world has given you a number of how much money it takes to raise a child from birth to age 18. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I don't care. The fact that I can think of an argument for almost every grave reason that has been presented to me, I can think of an argument against every single one, because at least 3 of them are also used as justifications for abortion, which knocks down the argument in its entirety. So there may be one good reason to avoid pregnancy, good and just and genuinely grave reason to avoid pregnancy. But I can only think of there maybe being one. And that one I can't even think of. The time has probably passed for this, but before people start to say, well, you're a man, this is all your thing, women don't agree with you, allow me to introduce you to my wife, who was about to make her first and probably not last appearance on this podcast.
Yeah.
You're here.
Hello, everyone.
You're here. All good.
Yeah, so my husband, ladies and gentlemen, is a very intense human being. But all things considered, he is right in all those things. And we've had this conversation many times over our marriage whenever it just came down to like being married and like what is the purpose of marriage? And it's like it's for children. And we realized this actually quite recently, that not having those children just is very empty, and not being it's just so quiet when you don't have all the kids in the house. It's very, very quiet. Anyway, so with NFP, we would, of course, we in our marriage prep we had to do the NFP course and do all that stuff, and I was practicing and doing all that. And I didn't think about it too hard until we were on our honeymoon, and I was just using the app, and I was like, hey, just keeping track of my stuff and everything. And then I realized quite quickly, this feels like I'm living on a schedule for my own intimate relationship with my husband. And some part of me was like, this is not, it's a mood killer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Because you're just trying to, you're figuring out, like, you just got married, you're figuring stuff out, and you're like, I don't want to live on a schedule about like, oh yeah, today's the day, dear, yeah, let's do that. And then it's like other days it's not, but it just feels like it just takes the whole, it is a mood killer. And I realized I did not want to live like that, because that's not normal. It does not feel normal at all.
Doesn't strike me as such when you say it that way, because yeah, it strikes me as the type of thing that would be anxiety inducing, which is a mood killer.
Yeah, because you're also just like, you're thinking about it too much. It's like, like, am I like fertile today? Am I not fertile today? It's like, why do I don't want to think about that right now. I just want to think about being one with my husband. I don't want to think about the little details and all that. And that's the one big thing that hit me that day. I was like, I don't want to think about this right now. I want to think about the beautiful thing that I have, which is being one with my husband whenever. But yeah, and when you put it on a schedule, you really take out the part of trusting God, pretty much, whether you're doing it in the fertility window or out of the fertility window, because you are basically living under the illusion of control, that you have the control to procreate. And sometimes, and I'm sure many people can say this, it's not 100% accurate or effective, because it could happen even in the out of fertility window, or not even in the fertility window. And I know that there have been couples who have been, I imagine there have been couples out there that have been frustrated by that. It's like, I want this child now. And it's like, well, maybe not quite yet. Or I don't want this child now, but maybe you need it. And the Lord knows that. Yeah, and just the timing of each of our children always just makes me laugh, because God has a funny sense of humor. It's like the timing of them. It's like, and then I also would just ask myself, why now? But then I have to realize and check myself and realize that He has a plan for every single one of them, and it will be known at some point. And just go with it. That's something I have a hard time accepting some days, but it does go very well in the end. But taking that control away from God, I did not feel comfortable doing that. And I just wanted to not worry about planning when we're going to have the next kid. Be open to it, of course. And that's the question you always ask when you're going to be with your person. It's like, okay, open to life. Great. Whatever. Just go with the flow. But yeah, that is, yeah. NFP is just, I understand they had good intentions, but they kind of, it has blown out of proportion, in my opinion, to the point where it's taken the control and your willingness to believe in God's will and trust in that will, wherever it may lead you. Yeah. That is my rant with it. A little bit less intense.
That is brilliant. That is brilliantly said, if I say so myself. It just gets in the way of something good. It induces more anxiety. It induces more overthinking. It puts it more on a plan. And like Ethan said, when we make plans, God laughs. Like, just get out of the way and love.
Yes.
Why can't, like we all three of us have said, why can't I do that? Why shouldn't I want to do that?
And you are doing that when you're pursuing that person anyway. You're
exactly
pursuing that love.
exactly.
So why deny it?
Yeah. The reason that we love, and this is partly my own personality, but one of the reasons that love is so awesome is because it is an adventure. And you can't have an adventure when it happens on schedule, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah, no. Like that was just like,
you have to have an adventure by setting out your foot. You're setting your foot on the road, going out your door, and not knowing where the next bend in the road takes you.
yeah.
But that then ties it back to, well, what's it operating off of? It's operating off of trust, that bedrock of relationships. And why you can make an argument why The Well of Ascension is the best of the original Mistborn books.
Still
because
it.
I know you're not there, but and I won't spoil too much by saying it drives that point home, and I love it.
Yes.
So, anyway, I will say no more. I will spoil no more. And you're better at this than Ethan, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I did always say that our love story was very much like Beauty and the Beast, but you know. Anyway. I did, yeah. I did. But you know, there are times, but you know, in the end,
Ethan, you can't complain.
Hey,
Ethan is the beast of the majestic maid. So
yes, but I married the beast because I needed someone who was a strong-willed man to express his opinions and not be afraid to. Because I sometimes am a little bit of a chicken. Except in The Simpsons. Yeah.
Their marriage is beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. I have nothing else. I have nothing to say. Just sit and observe. It is amazing.
Well, I might hand it back to my husband since I probably have to attend to a new child that we have now.
Fair enough. And my godson.
Yes.
Cool. Say hi to Raymond for me.
I said it for someone good in your eyes.
So now you've probably gotten a little bit too much information.
About
Just
what?
because it came from my wife. But to go back to St. Paul and to try to wrap this up. One, you should never be making it about your will.
Agreed.
And two, St. Paul says that a husband ought to do the conjugal duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
That means not saying, oh, we can't afford a kid right now, or, oh, I'm at this section of the cycle, or, oh, whatever it is. You shall do your conjugal duty to one another.
Mm-hmm.
You shall love each other with abandon. And openness to life means that you are understanding that every time you become one, another might come from it.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you become one, you may have a child. And
And there
being okay with that.
and there can be prudent reasons to engage in this stuff, I think. However, they have to be actually grave enough. And our modern world conditions us to think that a lot more of those reasons can exist than actually do, because a lot more of those reasons would fundamentally boil down to it being about you at the end of the day, and your will and not
Yeah.
God's will. And those
Yeah.
need to be wholeheartedly rejected and are relatively easy to fall into. We're all extraordinarily good at rationalization.
And taking in
That's from.
just logically, I can only think of there even potentially being maybe 2 or 3 genuinely horribly grave reasons for why you should not, or why you should actively avoid a pregnancy.
Mhm.
Like one of the ones that I heard once was, in case there's a high risk of genetic defects being produced. Guess what? That's
Oh,
called
hell no.
that's called eugenics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that doesn't count.
That does not count.
Yeah,
A human soul is still a human soul.
not being able to maintain your standard of living doesn't count, because your standard of living is just a standard of living. Like,
And I think the fact that we can't even think of them off the top of our heads means that they are so grave that they are completely out of our imagination.
mm-hmm.
Really, you don't need a system, and you don't need your wife to keep track of
No.
various physical things. Really, because the solution to that is just abstinence. It's just to practice an actual virtue.
Mm-hmm. Which works just
When
fine.
St. Paul says for a season, he means for an undefined yet still fairly long period of time. So if a husband and wife want to give up having sex for Lent, great. Because that is time that they can be spending in devoting themselves to prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like St. Paul said in the first place.
Fair enough.
It's great. It's wonderful how we as Catholics like to quote Ephesians 5, but we get really uncomfortable when we talk about 1 Corinthians 7. When we talk about Ephesians 5, we are willing to take that as it is. But every time 1 Corinthians chapter 7 is brought up, we immediately start trying to rationalize it and justify certain things. And we do the Catholic thing with Ephesians, but we do the Protestant thing with Corinthians. When the Protestants are doing the Protestant thing with Ephesians, but the Catholic thing with Corinthians, which is that particular verse, that particular section of that letter, just take it at face value. Take it for what it means. When St. Paul says that you shall do your conjugal duty, do it. My last thing being, that doesn't mean every night. That doesn't mean constantly. But yeah, that means not constantly saying no. And actually very rarely saying no.
It's not that the wife's body is the man's. It's also that the man's body is the wife's.
Yeah,
You know,
it does go both ways.
Does go both ways.
My body does not belong to me. It belongs to my wife. So if she wants it, she gets it. That's how it works. And in the opposite direction too.